Joining us today is Roxane Johnson, a versatile HR executive with a proven track record of driving organizational excellence through people-centered strategies. From leading complex mergers and acquisitions to implementing innovative wellness programs that saved millions, Roxane brings a unique perspective shaped by her military family background and passion for helping organizations align their people strategies with business growth. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, we'll jump right into the questions. What moment in your career has taught you the most?
Oh, that is a great question. I would say that there actually were two moments that were really impactful to my career. I think the first one was when I was tapped on the shoulder to join our internal M&A team. The company had made a decision to grow through acquisition, and the very first deal that our team was pulled in on was we were expanding into EMEA and APAC. And that situation was one of the best learning experiences of my career. Not only did it help me elevate my career, but I think it helped me learn the importance of understanding how to balance the strategic as well as the operational components of HR. And then the second, I think, moment in my career that was most impactful was when I was supporting a high growth technology company and we were rapidly scaling, specifically engineering and the professional services organizations. And that was a part of my career where I was challenged daily to shift gears. I was also challenged to adapt quickly as we were shifting and deciding which way we wanted to go. And one of the key lessons that I learned was collaboration is extremely important. It also enforced for me the value of agility, not just from the company perspective, Paul, but for me personally. I learned to anticipate challenges in that situation because I had to communicate proactively, but also take very decisive actions while keeping also employee morale. So I would definitely think that situation taught me how to lead through uncertainty, prioritize the people side of the business needs, but drive sustainable growth from the organization and its employees.
Those are important points. So it's great that you have that background. When your colleagues or team members describe you, what 3 words do they consistently use?
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely strategic. And that's a reference to mine being able to align people's strategies with the business goals. I think they also, let's say, adaptive, that I excel in high growth environments while keeping an eye on employee well-being. That is, I often say, you should no longer be in human resources if you remove the human out of it. So I definitely think that is a key one. And I definitely think the third role is collaborative, building relationships across departments. That has definitely been 3 descriptives that I think my peers would consistently use.
Those are important ones. Outside of your professional achievements, what passion project or personal interest has taught you skills that make you better at what you do?
I think of something I did recently where I had an opportunity to go volunteer at Houston Community College here in the Houston area. And I was able to volunteer in what they have all of their first time enrolled students enroll in a class called a frameworks class. And it allowed me to go in and share pointers on how to navigate determining their career paths as they started their career journey, right? I remember how challenging it was for me to determine my career passion. And what I've gained from doing things like this, because I often do that type of thing throughout the community, is it has sharpened my ability to actually listen and understand from the unique perspective and the challenges that others face every day. I think it also has enhanced my communication skills as I've learned to really convey complex ideas in a more inspiring and relatable way. But it definitely has deepened my empathy and my emotional intelligence. Qualities, Paul, that you and I know are very critical when you're working with individuals at different stages in their careers or even in paths in life.
Absolutely. And I like how you tied that between that uncertainty at the college age of people just starting their path, just starting their journey, but then also that taught you a lot about how you're working with people across the spectrum. Okay? Because
Certainly.
people, as they get older, there's completely different needs But that empathy is so critical. So really, very great. Can you tell me about a mentor?
Yeah, wow. I've been fortunate to have various mentors, different phases throughout my career. Yeah, I'll take two paths on this question. I'll take a path to talk about one specifically who played a very crucial role in teaching me the importance of doing the stretch stuff, the hard stuff.
Hmm.
They were very instrumental in helping me transition from a traditional HR role to an M&A role. At that time, I was so comfortable in the role that I had. I was considered a high potential employee. And when I got tapped on the shoulder to join that M&A team, oh my gosh, Paul, I was kicking and screaming. But only through that mentor did they provide me the confidence and the insight that I needed to take on that new stretch product. And it has been one heck of a learning experience. I definitely feel it elevated my career. And I will say that's when my career shifted. And I really, really began to learn the importance of understanding, balancing that strategic and operational sides of HR with the goals of the business. The
Hmm.
second thing that when I think about a mentor, and I don't know if I call this person a mentor, but there's a person that I connected with on LinkedIn since I've been in this transition. And they're amazing writer. They're a trainer by professional trade, but they're amazing writer. And they wrote about the comparison of this elementary school book called Flat Stanley. And if you're not familiar with the Flat Stanley story is, Flat Stanley is a little boy in elementary school who accidentally gets flattened. And at first, Stanley just thinks it's the end of the world. But he quickly learns because he's flat, he can be mailed and placed in an envelope with a stamp on him, and he can go all over the world. How he's been able to slide under doors when nobody else could get those doors of opportunities open for him. And it goes on and on. And I love the way that she wrote that and did the analogy of that's exactly what we face in life sometimes when we're in transition, right? We want it to be just comfortable the way that we want it to. And sometimes we have to be stretched and molded and reshaped into something differently to really have our eyes open and realize all these other talents that we have. So I just wanted to share that little nugget with you because I definitely thought that was amazing. And her name is Jory. Jory, God, I can't think of Jory's last name. I know it starts with the S. I'm going to murder it if I try to say it, but very, very amazing analogy. And I love the way she did that and wrote about that on her LinkedIn.
I think that's a great story. Very, very good. What book or podcast has influenced you?
Oh, wow. I read and I listen to podcasts constantly. Come on, I live in Houston, the fourth largest city in the US. I spend a lot of time in the car. The rolling joke in Houston is if your commute is an hour or less, that's an amazing commute. So Audible has definitely become my best friend. Most recently, I would have to go with the book I read most recently because there's been so many. And I just finished reading Mel Robbins' Let Them, and it has profoundly influenced how I approach both my professional and my personal life because the core message of that book, Paul, is learning to let go of
Hmm.
the need to control how others respond or perceive or react to you. And that resonated deeply with me, especially as someone who spends a lot of time navigating complex leadership relationships in my career. So, at a personal level, it definitely helped me release the pressure of trying to meet everyone's expectation, which has created more
Hmm.
space for me to really tap into my more authentic self and definitely more of a growth mindset. It also has allowed me by embracing the idea of letting them, what she talks about a lot in the book, letting them do or think what they will. I found greater clarity in my decision making and a stronger sense of purpose and how I show up to others. Ultimately, I would say Mel's book has reinforced the power of boundaries and the freedom that comes from focusing on what truly matters. I think it's definitely a lesson that's made me a better leader, mentor, and overall better person. I highly recommend others read Mel Robbins' book. I think she just dropped it in December, but them.
I will have to include that in the show notes. That sounds fascinating. So outstanding. If you could spend a day learning from anyone, living or historical, who would that be and why?
Oh, wow. So I have to say it would be Maya Angelou. I've always admired her wisdom, her resilience, her ability to connect with people on a deeply human level. There goes my human word again, Paul. Um, and resonate profoundly with me when she talks about the human side, especially given my experiences as an HR leader. I find myself navigating complex emotions, mediating conflicts, helping individuals feel seen and valued within the organization. But Maya had an ability to communicate with empathy and authenticity, even when she was addressing difficult truths. I'm sure you're familiar with her work. And that mirrors the skills that are required now to lead with heart and integrity in the workplace. Her quote that we all know well: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That has been a guiding principle of mine and how I approach my work my entire HR career. But if I had the question to ask her, I definitely would ask her how she maintained her composure and compassion in the face of challenging situations, and how she found the strength to advocate for change while she really stayed true to her values. Spending a day with Maya would definitely teach me even more about fostering connection, building trust, and creating environments where everybody feels empowered. All skills I think are invaluable in today's world.
Absolutely. She's a fascinating woman. So I love that. What do you see as the future of your industry?
Oh, yeah. So there's a mouthful there. When I think about the future of the HR industry, we are definitely seeing a huge shift. I think there's three key areas that any HR leader should be focusing on at this time, Paul, and that's embracing technology, taking a different focus on employee experience than we had before, definitely focus on hybrid and work, and more about the data-driven decision making. And let me just dive into each one of those a little bit deeper. I know, so from a technology perspective, right? The future of HR will be heavily influenced by technology because
Mhm.
HR teams are going to have to start using AI, machine learning, and data analytics to drive decision making. All the administrative tasks are going to definitely free HR professionals up to be more strategic and to have an impact on organizational growth, talent management, and the overall employee experience. Shifting to the second one, employee experience, there will be an increase in emphasis of that overall employee experience beyond what we traditional focus on from an engagement perspective. Companies will need to personalize those inclusive work environments, definitely tailor your learning and development plans, which again goes back to technology. I think AI is going to help a lot with that. But there is definitely going to be an even higher focus on mental health support systems with that employee experience. I know I remember looking at data at a company that I looked at before, and while we can't get into the depths of information from employees, one of our highest areas that they had medicines being prescribed for was in the area of mental health. So what does
Hmm.
that tell you about the shift we're seeing? And then the last two, Paul, are the hybrid work thing, right? We have to be able to focus on creating flexibility and more adaptive workplaces that ensure the remote people as well as the people in the office have the same opportunities for growth and development. How many times do we hear companies say, oh, a person that's in the office is going to get more visibility to continue to climb versus the person that may be remote or chooses to stay remote for whatever reason may not. We're going to have to adjust that. And then finally, that data-driven decision making is huge because we increasingly have to lean on that data and predictive analytics to make informed decisions in all areas of HR: performance management, workforce planning, talent acquisition. And this will allow HR professionals to be more proactive versus reactive, which I think is the old fashioned way when people think about human resources.
Fascinating stuff. You have it clearly identified and outlined, and I think it's clear that you have that strategic role very well under control. If there is there anything that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think if there's anything I want individual to share, I think ideally for me, I have found my sweet spot in small to emerging size companies. I think it takes a very unique HR individual to understand the dynamics that go along with that. And I also think there is also a need for an person with the human resource knowledge to walk along some of these private equity or venture capitalist companies. I'll tell you a really quick story. I went to it's called a Cup of Joey here in Houston. And it's basically a big networking event that occurs at the Ion every Friday from 8:30 to 10:30. And Ion is a hub that Houston established about 10 years ago for innovators. So even the oil companies have put some little startups in there. And so you just walk up to people, and I walk up to this gentleman and I start talking to him. And I tell him a little bit about myself. And I say, I really align with small to emerging sized companies. I said, because for some reason, they don't think about HR until they're at a certain point or when all chaos is breaking loose. You're nodding your head, Paul. And I said, whereas if I'm walking alongside of you, even if it's just as a consultant, right, I can ask the right questions that you may not think about as a business leader. He looks up from his laptop and he says to me, I could have used you 3 months ago. And he proceeds to tell me he's a fintech. He started up a fintech. And he proceeds to tell me how he started this company 2 years ago. And he had 25 employees across Africa, Europe, and the US. And he said he noticed his productivity or where he thought the company should be moving wasn't tilting the way that he should. And so he started doing a productivity assessment. He didn't really go into detail on how he did that. And he is down to 9 employees because
Wow.
he found out that many employees were not being productive. And so I said to him, had you had someone walking alongside of you from the beginning, like me, I would have asked you the question, how are you measuring productivity? He said, absolutely. And then I joked, I said, so how was my sales pitch? He said, man, you sold me.
That is perfect. That is so perfect. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's pretty clear you could really help that emerging business really make those next steps. It'd be great to have your hand guiding them. So outstanding. Truly
Thanks, Paul.
thankful. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you for making this space for us. I think this is an amazing thing that you're doing. And thank you so much for doing it.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
MTMG, guidance that empowers.